start again. It's a rich
What's going on, everybody? It's the Bulls Show, aka Aidan, and welcome back to another video. Today, we've got another episode of Chicago Bulls Weekly. We look at the previous results for the Chicago Bulls and the upcoming week for the Chicago Bulls, and we also dive into the awards that we give for the worst player, the best bench player, and the player of the week. We're doing all of that in this video, but before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show. Turn notifications on. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls previous week and what we can look forward to in the upcoming week, because there are challenging times ahead for the Chicago Bulls next week, ladies and gentlemen, and we've got a lot to look forward to. But first, let's look at the previous week. We had a 3-game stretch this week, and we ended up going 2-1. So overall, it was a pretty positive week for the Chicago Bulls. However, our last loss against the Golden State Warriors, I think, will hinder a lot of people's mindset on how this week went. So we're going to be talking a little bit more about all of those victories and losses at the moment. The first game was against the Brooklyn Nets, and we ended up winning this game 118-95. We had a phenomenal fourth quarter stretch to take us over the line against the Brooklyn Nets, and in the end, we were the dominant team, and we thoroughly deserved that victory. Then we moved on to the Dallas Mavericks. This was a really strong game, in my opinion, one of the better games to watch, one of the funnest offensive games to watch if you're a Chicago Bulls fan. And we ended up winning this game 117-107. Throughout the course of these two games, the vibe and the positivity around the Chicago Bulls was very positive. We were on a very high morale, and we just had a lot of good things coming from us. We got some news about Kobe White returning, and obviously the 2 wins in a row against really good opposition helped the factor for the Chicago Bulls. However, the unfortunate couple of days that turned after that was pretty damning for the Chicago Bulls. First things first, we ended up having a health or safety protocol individual in Nikola Vucevic, who is still going to be missing quite some time for the Chicago Bulls, it looks like, and that really sucked, especially when he was starting to get going. He had terrific games for the Nets and the Dallas Mavericks, really strong games there. And then obviously the second thing is we lost to the Warriors 119-93, a really damning performance for the Chicago Bulls there. That one really hurt, and we ended up getting outplayed, out-hustled, outworked every single stretch of the way of that game, and that sucks to see, and that's a negative time for the week for the Chicago Bulls. But a 2-1 week, I've always said, especially in this stretch of games, if you could continue to go 2-1 throughout the rest of those weeks, then you're in good standing. So I still have to believe that, but obviously that loss against the Warriors does mean potentially more trouble heading into the next couple of stretch of games this upcoming week. So let's look at the must improve, and now let's look at all of the awards for the Chicago Bulls. The must improve for me this week is going to be a very surprising one, because I did give it to this guy against the Brooklyn Nets, and I haven't really mentioned him since, but I'm going to give it to Alex Caruso. This is a really interesting one to give, because he usually is our sixth man of the week, and it is a bit damning to see that he is going to get my must improve this week, because he had a really, really tough game against the Brooklyn Nets. He struggled. He had one of his worst games of the season, and that really hurt the Chicago Bulls, but overall we managed to push through and have a really strong game. The Dallas Mavericks game, he was absolutely phenomenal, had 6 steals, just an absolute beast, got 16 points as well, and he was fantastic. And then the last game against the Golden State Warriors, he was very poor as well. And then from that game from Brooklyn to the Warriors, again, he had his worst game of the season against the Golden State Warriors. So it's just a maths thing, I guess. I gave it to him twice, and I think at the end of the day, that's probably how it should go, which really sucks for me, because at the end of the day, he is our best bench player, and to see him struggle in 2 games out of the 3, it's obviously not the end of the world, and I don't think this must improve means that he's been terrible and he just sucks and all of that. We shouldn't play him. None of that. I just think that over the course of the 2 games that he did play, where he did struggle, he ended up getting the must improve for me. And the sixth man of the week, funnily enough, you could probably still give it to Alex Caruso. Our bench was pretty up and down, but I'm going to give it to Derrick Jones Jr. just for the consistency of his performances. He is someone that provides a lot of energy. He is someone that provides a lot of defensive presence, and he is someone that can really help the Chicago Bulls on occasion. And I really want to see this guy play more minutes, but nevertheless, it's fine margins between that bench. You could pick a lot of players on that bench to give that sixth man of the week to. And if you really want to give the must improve and the sixth man of the week to Alex Caruso, because Alex Caruso had by far the best game off of the bench against the Dallas Mavericks in total. But again, we have to look at individual games as well. And I think Derrick Jones Jr. was just a little bit more consistent this week. And the player of the week is going to be, for me personally, Zach LaVine. He had a really tough game against the Golden State Warriors. He obviously had a really good game against Dallas, and he had a decent game against the Brooklyn Nets as well. I think the efficiency of Zach LaVine's game is slowly starting to come back. Obviously, the Warriors game doesn't help that, but the Warriors did a fantastic job guarding our players, and obviously not having Nikola Vucevic, it kind of hit Zach and DeMar really hard offensively, and no one else really stepped up to the plate. But overall, Zach LaVine has been pretty good this week, and if I had to give it to anybody, I would probably give it to him. It's a really close call as well, but he is my player of the week. Now we've got the awards done, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move forward into the upcoming games. Now, technically, if you're in Chicago right now, there is another game technically this week against the Los Angeles Clippers. But for me personally, this game's on a Monday, and I'd rather do things on my time just because it does get a little bit confusing for me if I was going based on every single game in relation to the Chicago time. So I apologize if you guys are a bit confused as to why I'm making it today, but that is the reason. Obviously, the first game is going to be against the Los Angeles Clippers. This is a game where we need to have some personal pride after losing really badly to the Golden State Warriors, and I expect the Chicago Bulls to come out with all guns blazing in that game to try and steal a victory at the Staples Center. This is going to be a tough game. They have a very similar record to us right now, and they'll be versing the Timberwolves, so they might have I believe they'll have a back-to-back. So we should come into this game and we need to play with energy. If we play with energy, I think we have a really good chance to beat the Los Angeles Clippers. Then we've got a back-to-back with the next game coming against the Los Angeles Lakers. This game, I think many people expect Kobe White to return this game, according to the poll that I released. Many people want to see him return against the Lakers. I'm not sure how the Lakers are going to play. I mean, at the end of the day, the Lakers are just as inconsistent as anybody. They seem to lose a lot of games, but they also are the type of team that you still have to be very careful of because they can take advantage of a weakened state team. And right now, even if we have all of our players, Vucevic is still a big loss, and we are weak at the moment in that center position, and maybe they take advantage of that. We should be very careful in that game. Then we've got the Portland Trail Blazers away from home. And this is the game that I personally believe Kobe White will return in. And this is probably the game that I think the Chicago Bulls need to come in as the favorites to win this game. I feel like we will be the favorites against the Portland Trail Blazers. They still have some very worrying players. Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, obviously Robert Covington. Many people were talking about bringing him to Chicago. So there are a lot of worrying signs there against Portland as well, but I still feel like we should be the favorites to go and beat the Portland Trail Blazers, and hopefully we can go out and do what is done, and hopefully we can beat a team we should be beating. And then we move over to the last game of the week. We've got 4 games this week, and it's going to be against the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets is a tough team to say the least, especially when we don't have much depth in the center position, and you're probably going to be facing the best center in the league in Nikola Jokic. So that's also going to be a tough game. We saw last year we did give them a little bit of trouble, but they did beat us both times. So maybe with this team, with a little bit more of a defensive presence around them, we could see a different result against Denver. And I'm hoping we could beat the Denver Nuggets, but we have to wait and see. Obviously, the confidence is on the floor right now because of that Warriors game, but we were 2-1. So that's my way of boosting my confidence up. We saw a positive week overall for the Chicago Bulls, and hopefully we can see another positive week heading in to a really challenging stretch of games. That being said, thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. A really tough stretch of games. The Western trip, we are right dead set in the middle of it now, and we have to fight our way out, and hopefully we will walk out of this West with a positive standing. It hasn't started well so far, but by the end of the week, we will know the end of it. And let's see if the ending is as good as people want it to be. Take care, and peace.